Okay, guys. Today, I have a very somber, very tragic video. Today is the death of the Democratic Party. Yes, it's been a long time coming, but the death is finally here for the Democratic Party. Now, there's a lot of things that have been going on in the past couple of years, but today I think they just sealed their fate when Biden and his administration announced Department of Health and Human Services that they would be distributing crack pipes, clean needles, and Narcan. So basically, these kits with clean crack pipes, clean needles, Narcan, and other items to encourage junkies and drug addicts and meth heads to practice safe shooting up. And this has been it's kind of been a trend with a lot of the Democratic politicians. I know California, they uh, they started opening safe injection sites everywhere. So they wanted to encourage the heroin addicts and the junkies to use clean needles. They didn't want to encourage. They didn't want to put money into housing and job training and helping people get off the street. They instead put their money into providing safe equipment for them to use drugs with and condone them to use drugs in a safe way. And now that's what Biden is doing. So unfortunately, and the reason I say unfortunately, that the Democratic Party is going to die in November when the midterms come around. It's just going to be a blowout. I believe the Republicans will gain a majority in the House and Senate. And the reason I say it's tragic is because I actually identify as a Democrat. I actually like and align more with their ideology, the traditional Democratic Party ideology. So their environmental record has always been, it's been impeccable. They've done better things for the environment. Clean air, clean water. Um, preserving national parks, just reducing pollution. Better standards for air, water. They've invested more money into clean energy, wind, solar, biofuels, and are trying to transition away from fossil fuels with their policies. And not that we can completely just get rid of fossil fuels, but we need to basically kind of phase out fossil fuels by putting more money into clean energy, and it creates so many jobs. It's good for the environment, it's good for business, it's good for jobs. It's good for everyone around, and that's kind of a big part of what I want to go into is environmental science. And so that's like a no-brainer for me. Democratic ideology I align with all the way. The other thing I align with is their gun safety laws. So, the assault weapons ban of 1994, and some people say, well, it didn't really stop gun violence. It didn't do anything to curb any gun violence and shootings. But I would just say, look at the data again, look at the charts. Violence, gun deaths were down because of the assault weapons ban of 1994. It was lifted, and you saw crime skyrocket. It should have been left in place and studied further because it was working, but it was repealed. It was never reinstated. So I'm for universal background checks, which most Americans are, closing the gun show loopholes, and stopping the trafficking of guns across state lines. So again, great record on environment and then gun violence. Historically, they've been more for the average American, so the poor and middle class and, just like the average Joe American. They've always stood up for like workers' rights, and they've wanted corporations to basically, you know, pay their fair share. They've wanted to increase the tax rate, and I agreed with, Biden. I think Biden wanted to increase it to like, I don't know, 28 or something, which I agree with because thing with, places, companies like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, what Amazon didn't pay taxes in like 2019 or 2020 or something like that. But Jeff Bezos, his net worth keeps going up and up, and the workers, their net worth is they're not seeing their wealth increase, and they're putting in extra work, they're putting in hard work, they're putting in hours, and you just see that the people, the CEOs, the CFOs, are the ones that are still getting richer, and the gap's getting bigger between the top 1% and then like the working class. So that's they've always tried to make it more equitable for just the normal people, and there's no reason why these corporations can't can't pay a tax equal to the profit that, or proportional, I should say, to the proportional to like the profit that their companies are making. So there's that. I agree with the Democrats on that 100%. Um, and just in the past, under Democratic presidents, their administrations, the nation has been more. Um, it's been more. How shall I say? Under Democratic presidents, the United States has been better off financially. They historically were more fiscally responsible, and the economy was higher, was stronger. So that's another thing under Democratic presidents. And actually, most people may not believe this, but under President Biden, we've seen the largest increase in the economy since I think the Reagan era. So he's presided over an economy that has had huge economic growth despite the pandemic. So that's even more than Trump's economy. And you know, I would say go look at the stats on that if you don't believe me. So the Democrats, Biden, they have all these great ideas, but unfortunately, they've embraced the fringe, far left wing, uh, Marxist woke ideology over the past couple of years. Starting in 2020, with George Floyd's death, and they called to defund the police, and that was a rallying cry to criminals and just gang members everywhere. They called to defund, abolish, and dismantle. And you saw the governors of these states in Oregon and Washington. There were these chast chop zones. One was in Seattle. I think there was one in Portland. The mayors didn't do anything in those cities when Antifa and all the thugs basically took over those police precincts, and they had their own autonomous zone. One of the mayors called it a summer of love, and she was completely okay with it. Many people were killed in those autonomous zones, by the way. So it was they embraced crime, lawlessness, anarchy. They embraced all of it, and they condoned it, and they didn't do anything to stop it. You had Mayor Lightweight in Chicago tell cops to stand down when the gangster disciples and other gangs were pulling people out of their cars, setting buildings, families that families lived in, setting buildings on fire, and just complete lawlessness. It was like the purge. It was the purge in real life. So Democrats they've abandoned all sanity and reason. They've they've absolutely just they've given in to the far left woke Marxist, and It's really quite sad. It's disappointing. It's it's disappointing to like the moderate voters, like your typical moderate Democratic voter like me and so many others like that voted for, well, I didn't vote for these, the people in the Democratic Party now, but what I mean is like moderate voters who are, the Amy Klobuchars, the Elizabeth Warrens, but unfortunately, they've become they've almost become the minority. And, the far left Marxist, the woke mob has become the majority of the Democratic Party. And even if they're not the majority, their voice is the loudest, and that's the ones that people hear. And you guys saw in Virginia, um, the Democratic candidate said, we need fewer white teachers, and kids, parents don't have any say. They shouldn't have any say in what their children are learning. That turned a lot of people off in Virginia. They voted for the Republicans, so Virginia now has a Republican governor. And it's just it's happening all over. Democrats they've isolated and alienated the average, their main voter base, which is like the basic working class family who wants to have safety, security. They want to have good schools. They've taken that and they've exchanged that base for the new Marxist ideology, radical base of the Democratic Party. So the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars, the ones that said, we gotta dismantle, abolish, and reimagine police, which basically means we're gonna get rid of all police and bring in social workers. So basically, if there's a domestic violence dispute, you don't need somebody with a gun, you know, even though those things could start going south in an instant when alcohol's involved and people are angry, whatever the case may be. So they want no cops, they want social workers, and they also are calling for the abolishment of prisons. So no prisons whatsoever. So no cops, no prisons, complete lawlessness, and they want that for your family. They want it for your friends. They want it for everyone. They want you to be less safe. They want your children to be afraid to go outside to go to school. They want your children to look over their shoulders when they're walking home from school. They want you to be afraid. They want you to cower in fear while the criminals, the rapists, the gang members terrorize your neighborhood, all while they are completely comfortable and satisfied with their lives and their gated community with their paid armed security. So they sold their soul to the devil. I mean, they did that long ago, but now it's apparent that they care nothing about the American people. So again, I just gotta say, rest in peace, Democratic Party. It's sad because they really do have some good ideas, and they've been historically good for working class Americans and the economy in general. But they've just embraced the Marxist and the anarchist movement. And that's what's sad. So they've alienated and isolated their I guess you could say their regular base of people. Their traditional Democrats, like the JFK type Democrat, the Bill Clinton Democrat. Those type of Democratic voters who voted for those presidents. So um, it's going to be sad. They're going to lose the House and the Senate in 2022 November midterms. I'm not saying I want it to happen, but unfortunately, it's inevitable. It's going to happen, and there's nothing they can do to stop it because of what they've embraced and the monster that they've created. So, rest in peace, Democratic Party.